Matt, Daniel, impressions of David Culley in his first news conference and what Nick Caserio said about Deshaun Watson.
Well, a lot of energy from David. You got to hand it to him. Nick Caserio says zero interest in trading the player. I thought that was interesting because I put it up on Twitter. I said, trading Deshaun. Wait, that's wrong. He didn't even mention his name. I don't know if that's on purpose. I don't know exactly. But David
It's very
Culley,
Bill Belichick-like, isn't it? To say
it's
something
very
like that.
Bill Belichick-like.
Yeah.
But kudos to David Culley. I'm so happy for him. There are only 32 jobs like this in the world, but he knows he's stepped on a hornet's nest, and he's going to get involved in it in a hurry, despite what he said in this news conference.
Yeah, I think they said all the right things, right? I was surprised to hear from Cal McNair off the top. This was an exciting day for the franchise. I believe a lot of people have a different opinion of that, of the way they look at it. But no, I think they said the right things. You have to take a stance, especially now that you're going to keep Deshaun, right? You don't want to put your cards out on the table. They have to evaluate the situation before the draft, obviously. If they want to trade him, if this is not going to be working out, they have zero interest in trading him. I have a feeling that Deshaun has zero interest in playing here right now. So they got to come to the middle at some point, and if they're able to do that, great. But if they can't, you got to get rid of him before the draft to get that draft capital back. You can't play this waiting game, waiting through the offseason training. You can't do that. But as for David Culley, he's great, man. Jason, you texted me during the conference. He's like a boxing promoter. But I feel bad for him in the sense that this is not an ideal situation to step into. Yeah, it's an NFL job. Of course, you're going to take it. But this is not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy kind of working around all the things that are going on behind the scenes there.
You know, if you look back at Deshaun's comments about the culture shift, I mean, this is clearly a guy who's big on culture. You can tell just by the way he operates and all the things he was saying. So I was really impressed by that. And you know, a lot of times we hear people get up and say, oh, I'm really excited in this monotone voice. But I mean, you could really, I mean, it was radiating through the screen about how excited he is. And I would think that, yes, I know he's never been a head coach. He's never been a coordinator, but all these experiences that he's had as an assistant coach and working under some great head coaches, he obviously impressed the Texans with his game plan and how he believes an organization must be run.
One thing that Cal McNair followed up on, his promise was they were going to hire an extrovert, and they've done that. I never got called on because I don't know why I didn't get called upon today, but I really wanted to know the role that the head of football operations, Jack Easterby, played in getting David Culley and Nick Caserio together. I don't know why I never got called. I kept getting passed over. I'm like, then of course we got the Texans fan in there, and yeah, we had to get that done.
Likely sponsored, I would imagine.
Yeah, there are so
Most
many
likely,
questions
yes.
in my mind. I don't know about you, but Tim Kelly's offense, okay, it improved, but that's Bill O'Brien's offense. You know, Bill came in and, like you said, he grumbled from the first day. Yeah, we're like fun, but you know, Bill kind of had that grumbling edge to him. But this is OB's offense still, and there are holes all over the place in OB's offense. Are we going to run Tim Kelly's offense? Another question I wanted to ask, but didn't get a chance to. We're going to run Tim Kelly's offense? I just can't imagine that with all the experience that David has had with Andy Reid and others in offense that are really effective. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was curious, Daniel. Is there a question that you wanted to ask but didn't get a chance to?
Well, I mean, I know, I guess that's a question for later, Dave, but it just blows me away, man, that nobody talks about JJ's situation. Like, not a single, and now today, obviously with the news that broke yesterday, I get it was Deshaun, but not a lot of people are talking about JJ. I guess I was going to ask that of Caserio the first time, if we were going to be asking questions for about an hour, then I may have gotten my question in finally. But I think the weird thing in this whole situation is that, okay, you hire David Culley, but you're not allowing him to pick his staff. So, I mean, kind of takes away some of, I guess maybe you're keeping Tim Kelly to kind of maybe help Deshaun stay here, maybe convince Deshaun to stay here because he had so many nice things. But it kind of takes away some of the head coaching duties from a guy. You're hiring a figurehead at this point. You're bringing in Lovie Smith, who, well, God bless him. Lovie's nice, but I mean, he went 17-39 in Illinois. Okay, so that ain't going to get the job done probably. But you have to let David pick his guys, and the way it's being structured now, I feel like those opportunities are being taken away from him. I just think it's just weird. The way all this is kind of coming together, it's just very strange.
Yeah, I agree. That was one of the questions I was curious, Matt, and Daniel, was how much freedom, David, are you allowed to pick your own staff? Because I imagine some people in the interview process that has to come up. And if they have in their mind, the Texans, that, yeah, there's some guys that we're going to keep or we want, I would think that would automatically, some other coaches who are interested in the job would say, yeah, this isn't the place for me if they're going to be picking my staff for me. And the other question I wanted to ask David Culley was, why does he think it took him so long to get to this point? I don't know exactly when he figured, I want to be a head coach in the NFL, or I'm a viable candidate, but that was another thing I was curious. Like, why does he think that it took him so long?
It reminded me of Kevin McHale when he got hired by the Rockets. I mean, half of his staff, if not 3/4 of it, was already selected by Daryl Morey. And we know how that relationship ultimately ended. But here's the thing, reports are already coming out of the Senior Bowl that the Texans are interviewing quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl. I mean, of course, they'd be silly not to. You have to do your due diligence out there. But
yeah, but I think every team would do that, right?
Yeah, every team is doing it. I'm not saying that's unusual, but this is the place that you get questions answered where you don't other places. You get a chance for access at the Senior Bowl where you don't get it other places. It's just, I'm happy to hear they're doing their due diligence. Their scouts are still out there working. I would think that Nick Caserio would be over there tomorrow, if not tonight. I mean, and maybe he'll take David with him. But there's a lot of work to be done. And at this point, as you guys are saying, David seems like such a nice man. We've heard from so many people. He's such a great guy. I just hope for the best, wish for the best. And at the same time, the way things are going, it's the Texans, and I'm wondering when the sky will fall down on top of our heads.
You know, after listening to Culley today, this could go one of two ways, right? So Culley is an energetic guy. You could feel it, like Jason, like you said, it was coming through the screen. You sit him in a room with Deshaun Watson, he might be the only guy in that building that can convince Deshaun to stay. So if Deshaun stays, then you obviously have an opportunity to at least compete now, right? Which that, in the sense, makes this Culley hire work, because you get an energetic coach to convince the one guy who's so mad at the situation to stay. Or Deshaun goes and you have a guy like Culley to look over the rebuild for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, 65-year-old coach. I mean, he's up there, but this is the first opportunity. You get a guy who's got a lot of energy, builds the culture a little bit, and then, as we've seen in other sports, in other situations, Bo Porter for 1 year of the Astros, poor guy saw so much losing, then he got kicked out the door, and A.J. Hinch was hired. That might be a situation here, right? Something happens, they're building towards something, then, oh, no, Culley, you can move aside. We're going to bring in the real coach that we want to coach the team. I think those are the two situations that can happen here after kind of assessing things over the last 24 hours.
So you're thinking a bridge.
Yeah, like a gap. Like he will serve as a gap to something else, and we've seen that so many times with other coaches and other teams and other sports. I mean, I hate it for Culley, but that might be a case here.
I would think that bridge would lead to the Josh McCown Causeway.
Yeah, it very well could be. Here's the thing. You look at it, you said going one of two ways. If that would work, then maybe you would get J.J. Watt on board. Of course, you're going to have to restructure J.J. Watt. If you keep him, you're going to have to restructure that contract. If he wants to go, though, just salute him and go on, because he's the most popular Houston athlete in history, I think, at this point. I really do. Even though he hasn't won world championships, I think what he's done for the city. But you bring up a good point, Daniel. J.J. Watt, we haven't been talking about him. I haven't seen him tweet anything. I guarantee you, he and D4 have been in communication with one another if they haven't been on Twitter. So it'll really be interesting. Here's what it does. It gives us fodder for the grist mill, right? You know, where we keep going, it keeps us going. But I really do feel for the Texans fans to have to go this, and Houston fans in general, of everything that's gone on since January of 2020. When is it going to end? I don't know. I don't want to say, oh, what's going to happen next, because something else worse could happen. But I just hope for the best, and we'll see how David Culley does.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm trying to find something here. There was a list somebody put together of people and players that have left. James Harden, or could leave. James Harden, Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, J.J. Watt, George Springer, Garrett Cole, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, Daryl Morey, Mike D'Antoni, Bill O'Brien, A.J. Hinch, and Jeff Luhnow. In about an 18-month span, that is a rough go. I mean, to think we had all those people in town. I mean, that was like golden age of Houston sports, I thought, here for about 2 or 3 years. But now,
it was.
Not so much. Yeah.
Those salaries combined, that would be like a large country, right? The GDP of a large country.
Oh, for sure. All those salaries, yeah.
Okay, so
if Deshaun stays, then maybe JJ will stay one more year just to kind of get a nice send off, maybe, because he got all the COVID stuff. He couldn't get a proper send off in the stadium. But if Deshaun leaves, then there's no reason to keep Watt. I mean, obviously,
I won't feel good until that first game. And Deshaun's behind, under center.
The optimism. If I want to go the optimistic route, I would say, look, they don't have to play a first place schedule next year. So the schedule's not going to be as tough. They lost all those close games. Maybe, just maybe, the competition won't be as tough. If Deshaun comes back, JJ comes back, they can get some, but it's going to be tough to restock the defense. They just need talent on defense. The other side of it, my goodness.
Yeah,
there's all those draft picks. If you get all those draft picks in exchange for Deshaun, I mean, you could rebuild the defense, but that you don't have the franchise quarterback that we've always waited for.
And I think that's the biggest problem for both of them. There's a huge gap, right? You have 2 elite talents, and then nothing, and then average to below average. You know what I mean? Like maybe like a Justin Reed, sprinkled in there, but other than that, there's a huge gap of talent. And that's what you're going to really need to compete long term, right?
All right, everybody, you can leave your comments below. Daniel Gotera, Matt Musil, I'm Jason Bristol. Thanks for watching, and until next time, you can see us Sunday on Sports Extra.